Okay, so now we are going to look at how to find the mean, mode, median, lower quartile, upper quartile, interquartile range, and standard deviation if we're given a table of values. So in this case, we have students ages 13 to 18, so it could be a high school or something. But it's not just one 13-year-old. There are 32 13-year-olds. There are 48 14-year-olds, so on and so forth. So these numbers of frequencies are telling you how many people there are of each age. So there are 72 16-year-olds, for example. All right, so the one thing that the calculator won't tell us is the mode. So let's do that first. So the number, as you know, the mode is the number or the value with the highest frequency, the one that shows up the most. So since there are 72 16-year-olds, or mode is 16 because that number shows up the most. If, for example, you were trying to list these numbers, you would have to list the 13, like 13, 13, 13, 13, 32 times. I'm not going to do that to you, but that's what you would have to do. Whereas the 16, you'd be listing it 72 times. So it's definitely the mode it shows up the most. Everything else we can find in our calculator or use our calculator to lead into finding the value. So we start off by pressing first Stat on our calculator, then Edit. And it looks like I already have these values entered, but I'm going to delete them just to show you how you would delete and re-enter numbers. So if this were a random set of numbers, you'd go up to L2. Once it's highlighted, you'd press Clear and Enter. And I'm going to pretend to do the same thing over here, but to save some time, I'm actually going to leave them. So once you're here, you would press Clear and then Enter, and then you'd have blank lists. Now, in order to enter the numbers, we're going to enter our L2 values, which are our frequencies. So I'm going to enter 32 and 48. These are our frequencies again. 61, 72, 70, and finally we have a 41. All right. So once you're sure all your values are correct, now it's time to calculate all the things that we're looking for. So you first go to Stat, and we're trying to calculate something. So you go over to Calc. Now we go to one of our stats. So it might look like they're two variables, but really frequency is just telling you how many times these ages show up. Our only variable here is ages, and these are just describing those ages. So we have one variable stats, so one var stats, and we press Enter. Now the screen will look different based on what type of calculator you're using. If you're using the older version of the calculator, you will see something that looks like this. One var stats, open parenthesis. If that's what you see, you have to manually put in what I'm about to put into the new version of the calculator. So in your calculator, you need to tell the calculator, you need to program in that you have your variable in L1, as you have your frequency, so you'd have to put comma, you have your frequency in L2. So you would type L1 by going to second. Actually, we can do it now. I'll clear those, pretend they weren't there. To get L1, you go to second 1, there, L1. And then to get L2, you do the same, second 2. And that's how you tell the calculator, in L1, I have my list, and in L2, I have my frequencies. Old calculator, same idea. In L1 and L2, you have your list and your frequencies. You just have to remember that order. And this is an essential step. Please don't forget to put this into your calculator. Otherwise, your calculator will make the assumption that these frequencies do not exist, and that's not okay. All right, so then once you're done with that, I put that in an extra time. Let's get rid of that. Okay, once you're done with that, for the new calculator people, you go down to calculate and press enter. For the old calculator people, you can just close up your parenthesis and press enter. And what happens is this. So as you may already know, X with the bar over it means mean. So our mean for this data is 15.7, rounded correctly to 3 significant figures. Another important value for us here is our standard deviation. So that is right here. The sigma x. This is not the standard deviation we need. We need the sigma x. So that little O looking thing is our standard deviation, which is 1.51. And if you scroll down, there's some other important things in here. So our Q1 is our lower quartile. Our lower quartile is 15. Our median, med, is our median, which is 16. Our upper quartile, Q3, is 17. And our interquartile range is the difference between the upper quartile, which is 17, and the lower quartile, which is 15. So our interquartile range is 2.